Happy Tuesday, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of Tooth Teacher Tuesday. I am your humble host, Dr. Steven Zahm, and as always, I'd like to thank you for joining me. Today's topic, answering a question that I get from time to time that is a lot more important than I think many of us realize. That question being, is it important to, take care of my tongue, to brush my tongue? Um, a lot of times when I get asked this question, people will say they've heard that, but don't necessarily believe that it's that much of a necessity. And so I thought this would make a great topic for a video. And so the reality of it is that our tongues, while we don't think of them being related to the health of our mouth, are quite the opposite. Our tongues are basically like a giant sponge for the bacteria in our mouth, both good and bad. And so, yes, it is very important to brush the tongue. Um, you know, not even just for bacteria's sake, but that would be the main reason, but also anyone that's ever used an inhaled corticosteroid will tell you that they have a tendency of developing thrush, which we've talked about in a previous episode, which is that fungal buildup on the tongue as well. And also anyone that drinks anything like coffee or tea, or anyone that smokes cigarettes, or other vapes and other products like that, you'll notice you have a tendency of getting staining on the top of your tongue. And all of those things can easily be addressed and removed by just brushing the tongue. Because if you can imagine, if your tongue is a sponge for bacteria and fungus and stain, then like a sponge, that can get wringed out too, which means even if you're good about brushing and flossing, if you're not reducing the bacterial load in your mouth by keeping your tongue clean as well, then those bacteria are still going to thrive and potentially get back onto your teeth and your gums and start creating dental issues. So yes, cleaning the tongue is very important. There's tongue scrapers specifically designed for that you can find, in your local store, than the dental aisle. And if you don't want to use a tongue scraper, you can also just use your plain old toothbrush. And then there's also a lot of electric toothbrushes nowadays have a setting specifically for cleaning the tongue that is just a little bit gentler than the setting for the teeth. But there's all sorts of different ways to keep your tongue clean. However you prefer is up to you, as long as you're doing it. That's the important part. So yeah, I hope that answers that question and clears things up. If you have any other questions or suggestions for future topics, I always welcome that. I am an open book. But until then, thank you for joining me today, and I hope you will join me on next week's Tooth Teacher Tuesday.